I'm back after 9 months. It's been a while, hasn't it? So I thought I would make my return by starting a new little documentary series thing, or whatever, on audio games, which if you don't know what that is, well, you're gonna learn today. This is part 0 of I don't know how many, because I don't know how long this series is gonna be. All I know is that I'm going to be covering the history of them, and maybe playing some of them. And if I do end up playing some of them, well, you won't be seeing any rage, because I am a very calm person and I don't rage at games.
Flashback.
Get COVID.
No! Matt! I hate you! End of flashback.
Well, that was a one-time case, okay? Just ignore that. Anyway, so in this part I'm gonna be explaining how audio games work, how you navigate in them, and so on and so on. So if you don't know what audio games are, just like continue watching this part. If you do, well, then you can skip to part 1 if it's out. And if it isn't, well, wait for it, or something. Oh yeah, I'm gonna try to be more consistent with uploads, but yeah,
Like that's ever gonna happen. What a load of...
Loading game. 1%. 50%. 1
So in this first part of the video, I'm just gonna be explaining in very, very basic detail how audio games work, and then we'll dive down to how the player navigates and so on. So let's get into that, shall we? To put it in very basic terms, audio games are games that are specifically designed for the blind to play using only audio cues instead of visuals. There is no visual representation whatsoever on the screen, or there can be depending on if the dev decides to add graphics or not. As blind people, even if we're not playing audio games, like if we're playing video games for example, like Street Fighter, we have to know what every single sound means. If I'm playing Street Fighter, for instance, I'll have to know what every single sound means. For example, if an opponent hits me, if I hit them back and they block, or if it hits, if they execute a rage on me or a special move, and if that hits or if I block, if I grab them, I basically have to memorize every single sound effect in the entire game. It's basically like playing a video game without using your eyeballs. Since there's no text on the screen, the text in-game is spoken by TTS, or text-to-speech. Now just take those two concepts and mash them together, and there you go, you have an audio game. Well, it's not really that simple, but I'll get into that in a little bit, okay? We're going through the basics now. Now that we have a slight idea on how audio games work, we're gonna go ahead and take a dive into the nitty-gritty of it. I'm gonna be explaining how the audio works and how we navigate and blah 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 blah, so just stick around for that if you are feeling very geeky. So the most important thing when it comes to an audio game is, of course, the audio navigation. So I'm going to be spending more time on that than I'm going to be spending on the other things, due to the fact that some of these things they're not complex, but they can get pretty interesting if you're not used to audio games. One thing that all audio games use, or actually one thing that every game uses almost, is something called stereo panning. Now if you don't know what that is, allow me to explain. Remember how I showed you that Street Fighter clip earlier, and you noticed that some of the sounds were on your right and some were on your left? Well, that is what stereo panning is, essentially. If I'm in an audio game, for example, and if I'm walking right towards that beeping noise over there, you'll notice that the sound gets closer to the center of my headphones and louder as I walk right, and then it gets quieter and it goes to the left as I walk away from it, obviously, because it's to the left of me now. Now you might say, oh, okay then, lazy, well what about when it's behind you? What are you gonna do then? You'll have nothing. Well, I do. It's called behind pitch decrease, which I'll explain in about 2 seconds. Now we're in another environment with another beep sound. If I walk right, you'll notice that the sound goes left, and if I walk up, you'll see that it becomes lower pitched. Now if I continue walking upwards, you'll see that it goes further away, and if I walk back again, it'll go to its normal pitch. Same thing if I go left and then upwards. It doesn't matter which direction you're facing or which one you're going. If it's behind you, it'll be at a lower pitch. Many audio games developers have recently started adding this thing into their games called HRTF, or spatial audio. Now if you don't know what that is, allow me to give you a little example. As you could probably tell, the difference between stereo panning and HRTF is like night and day, okay? With HRTF, now I can actually tell if something's like behind you or in front of you, versus with stereo panning you wouldn't really know unless you had like behind pitch decrease, or if you had eyeballs and if you were playing like COD, you could probably see the player, but that's besides the point. So I think I've pretty much covered everything in terms of auto navigation. Now I'm gonna go ahead and talk about some miscellaneous elements like So apparently I can't speak today, so I'm just gonna let TTS do the rest, and I'll wrap up the video. Yeah, I'm just gonna go now. Goodbye. I'm not gonna do this anymore. Fuck this.
Next thing we will talk about is TTS, or text-to-speech. TTS is used in many audio games to describe the game world or to narrate menus. Many audio games use this feature. If the audio game does not use text-to-speech, the game is most likely self-voicing, meaning that the speech is recorded beforehand and does not get generated by the TTS engine. Many blind people rely on what is called screen readers to navigate their computer and to play audio games alike. A screen reader is a program that...
Did you really think I was gonna replace myself with TTS? I'm not that tired of content creating yet, okay? It's not like I'll be Quabblecop and just create AI-generated content and make lots of money. Huh. Doesn't sound like a bad idea. Anyway, what was that? Oh yeah, the TTS. As mentioned before, blind people use something called a screen reader to navigate their computer and actually use it, like I am right now. I mentioned this back in the malware video too, and you probably heard much of it if you watched that video, because first of all, there's only audio. Second of all, that's the only way I can actually use my PC. So because of the fact that we use them every day, and because recording 50,000 different game lines for your game doesn't sound very appealing, just stick to this fucking screen reader, okay? You can press Control to stop the speech, but you can't stop the voice that is constantly in your game. Can you just imagine, like, you're just running around in the game?
Concrete. Grass. Concrete. Grass. Concrete. Grass. Concrete. Grass. Concrete.
My question is, when would you quit because I would quit 5 minutes after I launched the game. Yeah, this is why you stick to the TTS engine. Let's just talk about keyboard controls now, and then I'm gonna get out of here. The only thing that I'm gonna say about keyboard controls is the fact that blind people don't really use the mouse that much. I know it's very surprising. We just usually use the keyboard to play, or if we have controllers and if the game supports it, we use those. That is about it, really. I can't really think of anything else, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the outro and wrap up the video. Alright, so I've mentioned the basics now of what an audio game is. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you watched all the way to the end, thanks, you made it. If you didn't, well, then you didn't and you won't be hearing this, unless you go back and rewatch it later or something. But anyway, if you want to either leave me like constructive criticism or point out something that I forgot, or something I didn't mention at all, please just leave a comment letting me know or something, because like, I read the comments, I do. Someone left me feedback on the puppet tutorial saying you should have done this and this and this, and I will do that next time if I make another tutorial. Actually, I probably will. But anyway, that's gonna be it. So I will see you in 9 months or something like that. I don't know what a schedule is, so don't expect weekly uploads, okay? Bye. I'm out.